Hello, this is Robert Pask. This is my midterm project webinar podcast review for SED 595. So I was decided to try to look for a different webinar podcast that focused on universal design and learning. I did my paper on the research aspect of universal design learning, so it kind of intrigued me to see what is out there for like videos and knowledge and other stuff. So when I was searching for different websites that have like podcasts or things like that, I found an interesting website called Cast. Cast Professional Learning is a website that focuses their style of learning for UDL. So they have all these different resources that can help you on UDL, and it's just a very nice, abundant resource for anyone that like is interested, like me, on the subject. So at the same time, they have free webinars on UDL, and these you can watch at any times, and they come with PowerPoint, so you can look at the information around the PowerPoints as you watch webinars, and you can actually have a live chat with them if you meet them at the time they have the webinars. So I decided to choose the webinar on cultural variability because we did a class prior to this on how culture can affect assistive technology. So it'd be interesting field to have like see what people have to say outside of the class on like how you work with culture and like how can that affect how you use UDL or assistive technology in the classroom. So, one more thing that's very interesting is this CAST website actually has a Twitter account just like AT Chat, where it's called UDL Chat, and the first and third Wednesday of every month they have a UDL chat at 9 to 9:30, and it's very similar style to the AT chat. So you can have all these people around the world have their express their opinions or ideas about whatever the question or topic is of that day. So it just it's really cool. So like you have this and the AT chat at the same time, and then they also have their other Twitter account called CASTPL. So like if you have any questions on UDL, uh, feel free to tweet them. They would gladly answer. And then here's the different websites that they have. So the podcast I did, like I said before, is the Universal Design and Cultural Variability. This was a couple months ago in November, and let's get going. So the main person that does this webinar is Allison Posey. Allison Posey is the main person that curates all the webinars, and she has guests come on. So her two guests this week were Lori Lord Nelson and John Degner. Johnny Degner. They're both teachers in the past that have experience, and they want to try to incorporate culture of UDL and like how they see it. So the interesting thing that they popped up to try to explain like how to look at UDL is this picture right here. So if you see in the first picture, you have everyone has the same, they all have their box, and they all are trying to see the game. They're all trying to learn that lesson, but one person is having trouble learning that lesson. They have that barrier that blocks them. So like in UDL, you want to try to get rid of that barrier, or in assistive technology, you want to get rid of that barrier and help that person learn just like everyone else. Now, if you go with the middle one, everyone gets to learn. Because everyone gets to learn. The only thing that happens is that everyone learns differently, and you can tell everyone learns differently. So like there's like assistive technology, you see that person has that device while everyone else is learning. While they watch the teacher, or they're writing, and that person gets the computer. So that it gets that single and out feeling where everyone gets to learn, everyone gets the same ideas and graphs, but it's not universal. So if you move to, say, so let's say you get rid of the boxes altogether and you just switch the fence so everyone can see out of the fence, That way, everyone learns the same way. Everyone gets to see what is being taught, what is being shown, and no one's singled out. The short guy does not have any trouble at all seeing whatever the teacher's trying to teach as the same as the tall guy, and everyone. So it just creates a better atmosphere, collaboration, and that's what the beauty of universal design is. So take a time moment if you want to think about it yourself, like where are you from, what race, gender, country of origin, your language, social economics, literacy. These are all things that are part of your cultural identity, and they need to be put in consideration when you're thinking of someone's culture and how they learn and how they do stuff. So like students, they all have those culture identities, and it's multifaceted, and you can't really change how the people are multifaceted because it's internal. So like you can try to have them learn a different way, but it's not gonna really help because like they have their grew up, they know that style and that's what they're set on. At the same time, like people, not everyone learns the same way, so you can't expect every student to fit into one culture aspect in the classroom. You want to try to like you don't want to be narrow sighted. You want to be open. You want to see what you want all the students to see everyone else in the classroom and see how they're different and how that makes it better and how you can learn from each other. So I know one of the interesting things they brought up is that like only the collaboration only collaboration is more for a US and Western culture educational styles. A lot of the other countries, they don't really have the collaboration where like it's more independent work and you don't really have like projects and stuff where you're together. So like some countries actually they need to work together for a while to get that personal relationship, and it will if you don't get that time that to work together for a while, don't really they can't work together. So it's interesting because you think about that. Like some like in the U.S. we have one teacher for a year, and you switch to another teacher. So like if it takes years to like grow that relationship, that personal relationship with someone, and it's kind of hard to teach them if they can't connect. And then you have that trust issue. If you don't trust the person that's teaching you, or if you don't trust the people around you, you're not going to feel safe. And then there's some countries that just work independently and they don't rely on others at all. So how does this come into consideration when you're teaching? So like the two things that you need to make sure that you want to do is you want to have your content include all culture references in all aspects of learning. So you don't want us like you want kids to realize that their culture is welcome and that they are not singled out because of their culture, that their culture actually improves upon the classroom and that everyone gets to learn from it. And at the same time, you want your methods and practices. You want multiple means of representation. And then you also want multiple means of expression. So you want to be able to show the kids different ways of doing things. At the same time, you want them to be able to express themselves differently. So like their cultural style of learning or their learning styles, whatever's out there meets what they're trying to do. So they can learn to the best of their potential and not have barriers in the way. So how to teach all the diverse cultures. Like you want to be aware of you want to be aware of your teaching. You do not have to teach individually for each student. You don't have to make an individual lesson for this culture, for this culture, for this culture. You want, instead of thinking of it as that way, think of it as the kids making their own opportunities. So you want to offer the opportunity for the students to express their cultures. So that way the entire classroom can learn from each other and that you're not just singling them out because of their culture, and then that's it. And like you want, as a teacher, you want to be the collector. You want to be the person that gathers the information and spreads it so everyone in the classroom can learn from it. And in that way, when you see that you can talk about your culture and no one's going to judge you, then you can gain that trust. At the same time, that the teacher, and with that trust, you can be more open. You can see the students take more risks. They get out of their safety zone because they're not worried about anything bad happening. Um, and then because of that, you can create a community in the classroom where every student and teacher are a part of it. Um, and then they learn from each other. That is the best like style of universal design that creates everything. So like an example of this is like in America, we call soccer soccer, where like if you go out to other countries, they call it football. So like you can take that example and you can create an entire lesson on that, understand how the cultural differences, how it's the same exact game, but just the name alone is changed from one country to another, and it just can create so much like opportunity to learn. So a couple of things that this webinar really highlighted was they wanted very demands and resources to optimize challenges, foster collaboration in the community. They want you to optimize individual choice and automate autonomy, optimize relevance, values, and sensitivity, minimize threat and distraction, activate and supply background knowledge, maximize transfer and generalization, support decoding of text, mathematical notations and symbols, promote understanding across languages, illustrate through multiple medias, guide appropriate goal setting, support planning strategy development, vary the methods for response and navigation. So this is just in general like the key points that the presenters were trying to focus on, and it was very interesting. Like it just shows you a different feel, like how you can have culture like really help your classroom grow instead of singling each other out. Because you don't want that. You don't want because this person has that culture or that feel that they're different. You want them to be proud of that, and because they're proud of that, incorporate it with the entire class and not have it be a singling out aspect. So what resources can be brought together? You want to show lessons in different ways. You want to give choices, whether it be presenting a lesson to students' work or to students' work. Could allow them to be more comfortable and more empowered to express themselves. Remember, it's the trust. If they feel like they can trust you and they can feel like they can trust the classroom, they will feel empowered to try to do different things. If they feel they're going to be judged and criticized for whatever they feel, then they're not going to take those risks and they're not going to learn to the best they can. So like what values can you get from the AT evaluations? So it's the same time as like the cultural background. You want to realize how the student's culture, how the student's culture and identity will affect how they will use the AT or universal divine learning that you give them. You need to, like, not everyone, like, all right, you give them this computer, everyone's not going to use it the same way. They're not going to view it the same way. You want to see how they're going to view it so you can give them the tools so they can use it to the best of their abilities. You want to, like, so that such like the culture affects their learning style. You want to, like, you want to find the way that they like to express themselves the best. And then you want to see how they work with others. Like, remember, like, not every culture likes to work with other people. So maybe you want to try to find a way that helps them feel their individual work to the best. Like, so if you have a student who wants to work by themselves, they may not want that peer behind them helping them out a lot. You want to try to find something else, some kind of technology that so they can do that on their own and not have to rely on someone. And then because of that, they can learn more. They can express more. They can take that extra step that they probably wouldn't have if they had to rely on someone else. So that is the webinar that I saw. It was a pretty interesting webinar. It didn't really focus like on UDL of the AT aspect, but I feel like you can take a lot out of it and like push it into like AT and UDL and like how to incorporate technology and and put the cultural aspect in there and understand how you need to realize how all the students learn differently, and that not every student is exactly the same. Not every student has a cultural expression, and you wanna use that. You don't want to make that as a hindrance or as a factor to change. You want to make it so they can grow on it, so they can become better at it. So these are a couple resources that this webinar had. So this one is actually a document that they actually put up on the end of their presentation that shows all these different links and resources that can help you with cultural variability in UDL. And then I also have the link of the website and of the PowerPoint in. I also have the website in the PowerPoint on here too. So I thought it was a really interesting webinar. I wouldn't mind watching some more of these. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll post this PowerPoint. I gotta fix some of the edits, but I'll post this PowerPoint with my video. And there you go. Thank you very much. That's my review.